It is, I'm going to be clicking my fingers at Ben, sorry, for the next slide. Sorry, it's going to look rude. Regenerative Agroforestry Impact Network. We are a reforestation organisation active in Brazil, working with indigenous populations, working with black women's groups in the favela, working with other marginalised communities to do reforestation, food security, and loads of different projects. I'm going to be telling you all about it. It all started with a weird and wonderful experience I had in the jungle. And I've talked at length about that in this talk here and in lots of podcasts and things like that. But today, I'm going to be talking about how to ground our psychedelic experiences in life, in what we do. So this is the question I want to ask. How do we integrate psychedelic experience? And there's a lot of talk about integration. There's MAPS with all their therapists, and there's psychedelic integration with these guys on laptops. And there's the Institute of Psychedelic Therapy. Shout out to Maria. I think she's doing great work. Next one, please. This is Mind Bloom. I wouldn't trust anyone with trousers that clean. But next one. But Lara's had a good time. This is really good news, and I don't want to sound cynical. Lara's better. And these other two, I've got lots of slides. So these other two, for example, Andrew and Jeff, they've always had a good time too, integrating their thing. Ketamine silenced the constant thoughts that have been torturing me for most of my life. This is clearly a good result, but this isn't what happened to me when I integrated my ayahuasca experience. Obviously, ayahuasca and ketamine are quite different. The constant thoughts are still going. And I want to know, for example, what financial advice Andrew's giving. And I want to know what business Jeff is doing. Next one. Is this my business? Well, yeah, it is my business because I run a reforestation organisation and we get donations from businesses to do projects in Brazil, to do the things we do. But it's also my business for another reason. I want to know, next one please, what the dog is eating. Is that my business? Yes, it is actually, because if it's pedigree, then it's directly linked to deforestation of the Amazon, where I have friends. And if it's blue buffalo, they're partnered with the Rainforest Alliance. Dog food and soy farms, which are destroying the Amazon, and deforestation are all linked. And so is the financial advice that other geezer might be giving. I don't know, I'm sure he's giving lovely financial advice, which is often linked to land grabs, because that's quite good financial advice if you want to exploit the Amazon. And that's linked to indigenous rights, and that's linked to streams drying up, actually, because the deforestation of the Amazon is causing, and not just the Amazon, the whole of Brazil is causing hydrological problems across the entire world. The rains in North Africa and the monsoons in India are affected by the hydrology of Brazil. When I first went to introduce myself to my the grandparents of my ex-wife, who was pregnant at the time, I introduced myself to her parents when she was pregnant, and her brothers took me swimming in a stream, and 5 years later when we went to show off the kids, the stream had dried up, right? It is my business. Next one, please. Hydrology of North Africa is linked to war and refugees, and that's all 40 million climate refugees is no joke, and that's linked to my kids' future. Yes, it is my business what Lara's dog eats. Next one, please. Also, I'm very nosy. Integration. What's integration about? Integration is about bringing things together. That's what the word means. Bringing the parts into a whole. Next one, please. My ayahuasca cure involved. Keep going. I got sick in the jungle. I had a parasite. If you buy me a drink, I'll show you my scar. You've probably all seen it anyway. It's good. But anyway, the sickness and the remedy were part of the same story, part of the same experience. And the parasite and the person I became as a result of that experience is all part of the same story. And the ayahuasca can't really be extracted from the forest from my perspective, because my healing involved various plants from the forest. And I was drinking ayahuasca every day for 5 months, but I was also taking a whole load of other things to clear this parasite out of my body. It was a flesh eater. The understanding and the insights that I got, and the love for the forest that I developed during that time, translating into action, this is also an integrated thing. So all of this is together in my head because everything is connected. The Kabbalists among you will recognize tikkun olam in this. The ethicists amongst you will recognize integrity in integration. And the humans among you will recognize that It's all part of me being a human, and in fact, a human being, me, part of all. Learn to see, realize that everything is connected to everything else, said Leonardo da Vinci and loads of other people. This is what psychedelics are about. It's all right. Learning how to see, realizing, mind manifesting. This is what we do with our psychedelics. So why do we take psychedelics? I asked Google, and it said stuff about overcoming trauma, PTSD, finding happiness, achieving your potential, upping your game, all that kind of stuff. I wouldn't disagree with that, but there's also a traditional perspective, which is, how do they use it in the jungle? Normally alone. This is traditional shamanism. The shaman will go off to his or her hut with their snuffs and their brews, and they will plug into a network of spirits to get information for the tribe. And it's always in favor of the tribe. Or, well, it's not always in favor of the tribe. There are sometimes shamans will go and benefit one person to the detriment of others. That's called brujeria. That's called witchcraft. And it's not something that is it's frowned upon even in the jungle, although it's not uncommon. So what does shamans do this for? To solve problems. And that might be problems in the area of sickness. Maybe someone's ill. What's the plant to fix them? Maybe the whole tribe is ill. What's the plant to fix the whole tribe? Or maybe the behavior of the tribe is wrong. What has to be fixed there? Or maybe the local river spirits are upset and they need to be pacified. Or all these things are things that a shaman will work out in his or her travels into this divinatory realm. Next one, please. Responding to threats and opportunities. So the threats in the jungle might be illness, they might be hunger, for example. There are certain tribes where the only thing that an ayahuasquero will do is to make pacts with spirit animals and then work out and ask them where they're going to go hunting the next day and how many of those particular animal they're going to get hold of. This is a redistribution of food from the jungle onto your plate. I don't know if many tribes used plates back in the day. Redistribution of information, finding lost objects, for example, is another thing that shamans were charged with doing. And divination for war, another threat to your tribe is other tribes. When are they going to attack? When should we attack them? Should we negotiate rather? So war divination. Seeing patterns in space and time, because maybe the river spirits are unhappy and it's time to move, and maybe they might move the entire population, the entire village to somewhere else. Guiding individuals towards harmony, because if you're not doing that, then you're doing brujeria. And that's something we maybe want to leave in the jungle behind. Next one, please. Why do they do this? For the resilience of the collective. Next one, please. I want to talk to you a little bit about Daime, which is my lineage, and this is Mestre Irineo, who was a big, tall black man from the northeast of Brazil who went over to the western Amazon to, initially as a part of the rubber boom. He became a great healer and founder of Santa Daime. So I want to tell you two stories of his life to illustrate how he did the things that traditional shamans do. For example, responding to threats. It was quite a racist part of the world. He was using techniques from traditional shamanism, which has been oppressed since first contact. And the police got wind of this, thought he was worshipping the devil, and surrounded his encampment, which was mostly black people in the forest. And they ordered him to desist his activities. He resisted, said no, went off to be interviewed by the cops. By the end of the interview, he had not only convinced them that he wasn't worshipping the devil, but that he was doing good work. And the result of that meeting was they gave him some land in Rio Branco, which is now quite a large city up in Acre. And with that land, he immediately started planting lots and lots of food. Loads and loads of food, and got all his followers to plant loads of food. And then the rubber boom collapsed because an English guy stole a rubber seed, started propagating rubber, and that was the end of that trade. So there was a famine across the land, and people started flooding into Rio Branco. And him and his followers were producing 40% of the food during famine. So we see there prediction, action, and averting a disaster. I can tell you one more story about this guy's predictive powers. He was visited by a gentleman called Caetano Veloso, who was a Brazilian journalist, who went down because they'd heard about this. The bishops were actually complaining about this weird sect of ayahuasqueros doing Catholic stuff. So this journalist was sent down to interview him. When he arrived, Mestre told him his name, told him he had an injury in his leg, told him about his journey, told him he'd just come out of prison because this was during an oppressive time in history. And he said it was the most bizarre encounter he'd ever had. The two of them then drank ayahuasca together for 3 days, never released information about that. But at the end of it, he gave Caetano Veloso a bottle of Daime, bottle of ayahuasca, to take back up to Rio, said, give this to some of your sensitive friends. And one of the guys he gave it to was Gilberto Gil, who was a musician and revolutionary at the time. And Gilberto Gil, don't try this at home, but he took a dose, went on a plane to Sao Paulo, got off the plane just as it was kicking in, and walked into a military parade of a new department of the dictatorship, and was overcome with love for these oppressive people. And the experience never left him. And when he became the culture minister of Brazil, he applied for recognition of ayahuasca, which is the reason that it has legal protection there, and probably a lot of the reason why we get to drink it. Next one, please. So these guys were working in an environment that looks like this. My charity works in an environment which looks more like this, massively deforested, like a lot of Brazil is. 96% of the Atlantic forest is gone. So let's have a think about our current threats. Ecological, economic, social, biodiversity crisis. You can see it right there. Where are all the animals gone? Changing weather patterns, extreme weather. Next, please. Supply chain collapse, inequality and hunger, refugee crisis, political division, and of course there are psychological problems as well. For example, everyone is mental. These problems are all integrated. They all have a similar root. They're all part of one big problem. And I personally believe that the solution to our problems will not happen piecemeal. If someone's doing a bit of a beach clear up over here, someone's trying to reduce their carbon footprint over there, I believe we have to come together and collectivize and become a intelligent collective network. Next one, please. So the solution looks to me like responding to threats and opportunities. An opportunity, for example, I met some Zimbabwean farmers. They couldn't grow maize anymore because their climate's changing, but they could grow other things, and they had bumper crops. That's really useful, as long as you can redistribute those resources. Redistributing information. I'll tell you a little bit about that in a minute. Next one, patterns in space and time. Be able to predict the future. Wouldn't it be great to know that there was some kind of adverse weather event coming? What can we do with collective intelligence? Well, we're going to look into slime molds. By the way, there's some slime molds in front of you. Pass them around, distribute them, redistribute them. Have a look. They're busy connecting, networking. Guiding individuals towards collective harmony, because the problems in Brazil of hydrological collapse are our problems as well, right? This is all connected. Why? Next one, please. How do we do it? By plugging into a network and understanding nature. Which is also what shamans do. So that's what RAIN, my reforestation organization, is doing. We are a network. The N of RAIN is network. And we are based in the principles of biomimicry as well as psychedelic thinking. Next one, please. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about, there we are, mycelial mutual aid. I'm not going to have time to talk too much about mycelia today. I'm going to talk about slime molds, which are an intelligent companion I can keep in a jar without getting into trouble. Next one, please. Slime molds, right? They're single-celled amoeba. When they work on their own, they're wandering around foraging for food. When they work together, they do extraordinary things. They collectivize in a really interesting way. For example, they like moist conditions, but if it gets too dry, then they form this kind of mushroom thing, which can then spore, but they're not actually spores, they're amoeba, but they can get into the air currents and they can float off away into a place which isn't quite so dry and have a chance of survival. Next one, please. So they respond to a changing environment. What can an individual do in response to a hydrology crisis? Not very much. What can an individual amoeba do in response to a hydrology crisis? Not very much. But when they get together, they can do extraordinary things. If we get together, if we collectivize our intelligence, I believe we are capable of absolute wonders. What else do these guys do? They're really good at mapping space. This is an example of, they like oats. You'll see some oats in there, very cheap date. And this is in 23 hours, they managed to map a really efficient way of connecting all the oats up together. Those oats are in the position of stations on the Tokyo Railway network, and they outdid the Japanese in efficiency of distribution in 23 hours. Next one, please. They're also good at mapping time, which is amazing. If you blast a slime mold with cold air, it will retreat. If you blast it for 5 minutes on the hour, every hour, it starts to anticipate. So the next time it will retreat more. And the third time you do it, it's already retreating 5 minutes before you start to blast it. So it's a bit like when you set your alarm clock and you wake up 5 minutes before it goes off. Slime molds can do that. How do they do that? We really don't know. Next one, please. If you then don't blast them, like you change the pattern, they respond to that as well. They retreat a bit, but then they realize it's not happening, so they adapt. Next one, please. They remember, they recall, and they can learn and they can adapt. Wouldn't it be good if we could learn and adapt? Next one, please. They kind of do a kind of farming, really. If they encounter some bacteria they can eat, they might not eat it all. They might take some of it away and cultivate it to eat it later, which shows more intelligence than me when I'm given a packet of biscuits. Next one, please. Salt. This is a salt bridge. If they can learn that on the other side of a salt bridge, like single-celled things don't normally like salt, there's food, they will learn to adapt to that, and they will cross the salt bridge. If you then take a little bit of amoeba, which has learned that on the other side of a salt bridge is food, you can dry it out, you can leave it for 6 months, rehydrate it again, introduce it to a different bunch of amoeba, and it will teach the other guys to not worry about salt bridges. They learn, they share, they're fantastic. How do they do it? Plugging into a network and becoming a superorganism. Next slide, please. So you'll notice that the response to our current threats and the intelligence that you find in network communities, whether that's slime molds, also mycelia, ant communities, and others, are very similar in that. And I'm going to show you how it applies, biomimicry applies to the reforestation organization I run. Right, so for example, this is a stream in Jequitinhonha. When I first went there, it's the stream that dried up. I mentioned it before. So I was very upset about this, obviously. When I first went to the stream, it was full of frogs, dragonflies, fish nibbling at my belly, the whitest belly they'd ever encountered, I think. 5 years later, when I went back, the stream had dried up. Yeah, nasty, nasty, nasty. So the next door town was called Cachoeira, which means rapids or waterfall. The waterfall had dried up in the 1920s, but the mayor of the town talked to me and he said, I'd really like to see the waterfall flow again. So what did we do? We responded to the threat by starting to do, next one please, starting to do school nurseries. So we sponsored a school to build a nursery. Next one, please. Redistributing resources. My last English student put up the money for the first nursery that we built. He's a Russian guy. You might meet him. He's in the room, in fact. What else is happening? Oh, yeah. So I just want to make a distinction between what we do and a lot of other charities do. We are responding to what the communities are asking us to do, rather than coming with a program. Next one, please. The next door town, they also wanted a sapling nursery, so we raised more money, did that. Then we started reforesting springs in the area and cleaning out springs and stuff like that. I'm going really fast because I haven't got much time. Next one, please. That expanded into other projects all over Brazil, really. The first one was in Recife. Let's jump this one. Oh, come on then. If a dog shits in the woods, that's a fantastic resource, right? But it needs to be shared, and it's shared across the mycorrhizal root network, which is the underground network that puts trees into a kind of super community. If it stays in one place, like financial resources staying in one place start to stink and start to make problems and start to gather filth. So let's spread them out, people. Anyway, so this is what we did with this project, an urban agroecology project in Recife, because people were getting hungry during the pandemic. So this was a master's student here. We put her through her master's, and she made an agroecology booklet which could be used in slum conditions, and that's what it looks like. Had loads of stuff about how to collect water off your roof, how to irrigate with plastic bottles, how to make cosmetics, a whole load of stuff. Next one, please. That was really successful. They sent us some media. We distributed it through our network, raised more money, and that spread to 9 favelas. Next one, please. And then someone got wind of it in the occupied territories in Israel, and we've now translated into Arabic, so we can start a project there with a really interesting organization. This is an example of sharing good ideas across a network. This is what we're all about. Next one, please. The mycorrhizal root network. If a tree is threatened by an insect, then it will often produce defense chemicals. It might be something the insect doesn't want to eat, or it might be something that attracts a predator for that insect. But aren't they clever? They also will send, so that's a defense chemical. They also send infochemicals through the mycorrhizal root network to other trees, including trees of other species. And these information spreads widely and provokes an appropriate response in the other trees, provokes defense chemicals in other trees, for example. How is this useful to us? Well, in our media policy, as a reforestation organization, we want people to respond appropriately and give us money or change the way they live. I've been seeing images of the Amazon burning since I was a child, and they ain't working. If they were working, it wouldn't still be happening. But clearly it is. So next one, please. An infochemical needs to spread widely and to other species. I don't want to share pictures of the Amazon burning with my mum, right? I don't want to share that with anyone. What I do want to share is music and stories and beauty. So this was a project that we had with the Nokikoi, that guy there. He's the leader of the Nokikoi. It's an Amazonian Ayahuasquero tribe. They have a song from the time of the rubber boom talking about the ethnic cleansing, genocide of their people. It's a beautiful song. We got it backed up by 2 London orchestras, London Mozart players and Orchestra of the Earth. Filmed inside a church with Amazonian scenes projected onto the walls and monkeys leaping from tree to tree, stuff like that. The flyers there and around, you can pick them up and have a look. We've got Miriam Margolyes, who through a very bizarre connection turns out to be a very distant relative of mine and got in touch because she's quite a strange woman and likes to get in touch with her very distant relatives. Anyway, she did the voiceover for that. It got on Classic FM, got shared through their community. So normally the classical music community don't seem to be that interested in ecology, which is strange because their bows are made out of Brazil wood, which is massively endangered. Most of them don't even know that. So we are producing media which spreads widely and spreads to other species, i.e. other communities, and provokes an appropriate response. Next one, please. We last week got on telly in Brazil. This is Annika. She took out her violin. She's the director of Trees and Music. She took her violin to a favela, was teaching music to people there, and took a bunch of favela kids to a hillside where they planted loads of trees. And I have a video over here of people screaming, Auntie Sabrina planted a tree. And it's brilliant. It's absolutely fantastic. This is integration. That makes me feel good. Integrating everything, bringing all the world together, right? Integration goes beyond your head. That project also involves the prison population, for example, where the people who are looking after those saplings and growing them for seed are from the prison, prisoners who are being reskilled. Next one, please. Mycomimicry. Our management system is also distributed. I'm not a director, I'm a co-director. The way we do things is distributed. I don't really have time to explain too much how that works. It's very complicated in practice. Next one, please. Another thing about the distributed network is that rather than, if you give your money to many charities, they will centralize your cash, like a tree planting charity, 50p plants a tree. They will centralize your cash and they will send it where they think is best. What we do is slightly different. When a business comes to us, we put them in more or less direct connection with the community, an indigenous community, for example. And that is quite a difficult process because businesses tend to want things done by Thursday, whereas indigenous people have a different concept of time. And they have hundreds of years of post-colonial abuse from people who look like me, telling them what to do. So quite often, they will refuse to give us media, for example. The Black Women's Group did the same. So I got on the phone, told them all about it, and they were cool. This is another project we have. It's a schools twinning program where we twin indigenous schools with UK schools, where they're swapping media. We have 36 lesson plans, which are integrated into the UK curriculum, bringing indigenous wisdom about their trees, about their various techniques of regeneration and living in harmony into the biology syllabus and maths and all kinds of other stuff.
Wow. Thank
you very much.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's cool. Thank you. that school there. So we're also doing stuff in the UK. The grammar school at Leeds, they have 14 hectares, which they are rewilding as part of this project as well. Next slide, please. This is I won't dwell on this, but you'll be familiar with this image. When you take psilocybin and a lot of psychedelics, the centralizing part of the brain, for want of better words, seems to be knocked out, and different regions of the brain make, next one, Ben, different regions of the brain, regions which don't normally communicate more. That's Robin Carhart-Harris talking about that. So I think you can see the connection between a distributed network and distributed parts of your brain connecting, and different parts of your life coming together, integrating, and different communities in the world communicating. So that's what the network is about. It's a space where people can communicate and transfer resources and transfer information. Next one, please. Here's a question. Could the networked intelligence of a distributed collective respond to challenges we fail to meet as individuals? Because between you and me, as individuals, we ain't going to do it. Psychedelics are about breaking down boundaries, so let's do what we can to break down boundaries. Next one, please. Can you help? I've been on the stall for a couple of days trying to get people excited about giving us money. I want to say this delicately. People will spend a whole load of money going off to the jungle, drinking ayahuasca, buying beadwork, buying psychedelic art. Beautiful. Wouldn't it be great if they were prepared to share just a little bit, and you want to. So please help us out. Please tell all your friends. We don't have a lot of money. We've got a very small team, an overstretched team, a very idealistic team. We don't have all the skills we need. So if you can, come volunteer, come help us out, give us some money. Tell all of your friends. If you know people who are in businesses, in orchestras, anything. We are a network when other things can happen. So you don't need to ask me, do you need one of these? Yes, we do. We need one of those. Bring it onto the network and see if we can all work together to turn this mess around. Thank you very much.